All right, this is my review of November 11th, 2025. Um, Pretty bloody session, pretty rough. And I think in the review we're gonna see why the price action was just brutal today. Um, and by brutal, I just mean no real direction, no real volatility. It was a very lethargic price action, very tight ranges. Um, just not the kind of environment where there's a lot of opportunities. Uh, I think in that environment, I pressed the gas too hard today. Um, I think my primary issue is you'll see here that I sized up to 2 lot minis. Um, my reasoning for doing that was I've been fairly consistent lately, and two, off the open, the range looked so tight, and even in hindsight, I do think that the range was tight enough for size like that to be justified. But the problem with that is the price action was so bad. Just because price is tight and you can get away with tight risk does not mean that you should size up. Um, because the potential for blowout moves is definitely still there. If anything, it's increased. Um, the chances of you getting caught in a compression and price blowing out against you is very high in these slow, choppy markets. Um, so I think that sizing up was very premature today. And in fact, I would even go as far as to say that I will not size up again until the end of the year, at the very least. Um, I might even set the goal to not size up until I've passed this account. Keep going with one mini. It's so simple to trade one mini. You don't have to worry about commissions. You don't have to worry about selecting the right size when you sit down to trade. You don't have to worry about slippage or partial fills nearly as much. Trading one mini is very simple, and while I'm trying to achieve consistency like I am, I think simplicity is best. So moving forward, I am not going to attempt sizing up until at least after I've passed this account. Um, so let's jump into the statistics. I had 12 trades today, 4 wins and 8 losses for a 33% win rate. My average win was 4 ticks, but my average loss was 5.9 ticks. So I was getting stopped, blown out way harder on the losses than I was able to recoup on the winners. And that comes down to environment, plain and simple. We'll see once we get into the replay that price was very choppy today. From the open, we were stuck in a range. So right off the bat, we were in a range, and we were bouncing, bracketing between those range highs and range lows, which does not work well for my system. It's my system, as we've discussed in the past, can perform in those environments, but not nearly with the reliability and consistency that it does in trending environments. Um, so I think a lot of my trades today are going to have the price action too tight tag, where I just could not get any width, any breathing room on my trades. They were all just incredibly tight. So let's jump into trades here. Trade number 1 is a 3-tick loss to the short side. Let's listen to the narration. There could be a continuation short here, 43.75 short. So right away, I don't like this idea because um, as as tight as the VWAP is on a very slow day like this, I still have to respect it. And right now, we are arguably above the VWAP +1 band. And according to my system, I should not be shorting above the VWAP +1. That seems to be a sign. Now, if VWAP is too tight, I just need to wait for some breathing room. You know, wait for the bands to widen, wait for a little bit more volatility, and to get a better read on that VWAP. Otherwise, I just have to lay off. I certainly cannot fight it. And I think by shorting above the VWAP +1 that I was fighting this trade. So let's tag that as such. Heart rate was slightly elevated, so I'll put maybe calm. I'll put yes content for the. Actually, no, I'm gonna put maybe content because I did size up prematurely here. And I'm gonna put maybe patient because this is pretty quick after the open. My market read is confused. I took one pulse check before trading, and it was a bad one, so I should not be taking aggressive trades like these if my first pulse check was bad. This was an aggressive scalp in a risk-off environment, which means I was against the bias, I was against the trend, and price action is too tight. It's just not nearly loose enough here. Factors of support for the short. This was technically an ATR candle continuation, but it's kind of a mean reversion. I don't think I'm going to have any momentum tags today because there just wasn't any. There wasn't any momentum. This was a D setup, meaning I shouldn't have traded it. And we are below the moving average. Not really any slip favor here. Yeah, I'm going to say slip none. Factors of support, I did have some reclaim below us, but that's pretty much it. And I suppose if we're considering this a range, then I suppose no, I'm kind of range mid, honestly. So I'm not going to tag range favor. And this will be a red star, so I'm not going to bother with execution. I think shorting above VWAP +1 is just it's a no-go. Cannot do it. Even if VWAP is incredibly tight like it was today, it's just you just can't get away with it. Trade number 2 is a 5-tick loss to the long side. Up. Long 46 for the continuation. Yeah, and again, I think I'm just pressing here. I'm pressing something that's not a good setup. Granted, there is a bit of a trend here. We're long above VWAP +1, which is good. We're also above the 50 SMA. There's a couple problems here though, and I will screenshot it just so that you know for the future. A couple problems with this trade. This is very lethargic. Trend. It's not a strong trend by any stretch of the imagination, and I want strong trends. There's also a bunch of supports here. So there's like, or resistance rather. So there's resistance there. There's resistance there. And we're kind of putting in a resistance near high of day. So we're fighting a lot of things here. We're also fighting opening range high. I am fighting all of this. And that's pretty much it. Those are all the reasons you need to not take a trade. As for tags, I am calm here, but maybe content, maybe patient, and I think that those tags are going to be consistent through the whole day. Factors of support, I did have trend favor, but that is literally it. I don't see any other factors of support. So it's an ATR candle continuation. I don't want to use the momentum tag because there isn't any momentum, so I don't think this was a setup. Yeah. I just can't think of anything that there could be here. Maybe a breakout. Yeah, let's put breakout tag on there just for the stats. That was what I was thinking at the time, that we're going to break out above these highs and continue higher. This is also going to be a red star. Aggressive scalp, risk off, against bias. And I'm against a range. Slip none. Confused. Make sure the screenshot's in there. It is. Okay. Trade number 3 is a 10 tick loss to the long side. I think after taking a loss this big, and especially on a day where I've increased my size, I think this was a pretty good indication that A, I should be done for the day, or B, I should walk away and size down. There is a part of myself that fights sizing down because you've dug such a big hole with increased size that sizing down is going to make it impossible, literally impossible, to dig out of it. And that shouldn't be the mentality, anyways. The mentality should never be to dig out of it. But at the same time, I think taking a big loss on increased size like this, it's impossible that it hasn't affected your psychology. And sizing down is just a way to unburden yourself from that psychology and to just regain some sort of consistency. And the goal shouldn't be to make all that back. The goal should just be, okay, I'm not focusing on setup quality. Let's size down so that I have to focus on setup quality. Instead, the rest of my session was spent pretty much obsessing over P&L and how do I get back to break even on the day, you know, especially on increased size. I mean, if I take a big loss on normal size, those risks still exist. But at least I'm comfortable with my size and I know that I can focus on setup quality in the interim. But when I'm on increased size and I take a big loss, it's impossible that I'm not going to be thinking about P&L at that point. It's just a fact. No trader on earth can take a big loss on increased size and then not think about P&L. It just doesn't exist. It's unrealistic. So, maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. Actually, I'm going to put no content on this. I am not content because after I took this loss, I was definitely not content with P&L. Let's look at the replay for setup quality. Yeah, I'm gonna copy tags from the last one because this looks like a try to of the same idea. So let's copy tags. Let's paste those in there, put try to, change contentment to no, and calmness to maybe. Still confused. Still above VWAP. And price action is still way too tight. Make sure I tag that on the last one too. This will also be a red star. All right, I think that's it. I don't really have much else to comment on. Just from a price action standpoint, we're still in just such a lethargic trend when we get there. And again, that's the part of my mind that tricked myself into thinking that I should size up, is because If price is lethargic and the average range is so small, then I'm going to need more size to capture fewer ticks. But the problem in that thinking is you get blown out. There's the risk of having a huge move blow out against you like this is increased. It's very increased. That's what the problem is. You just can't be justifying larger size in tight environments. That math just doesn't work. It's like if you saw a penny stock trading in a 10-cent range, so you think, oh, let me double my size on trading this penny stock. Well, now you've just increased your risk on an illiquid instrument. It could just blow out against you. And it's the same thing on ES. Just because ES is more liquid doesn't mean that blowout risk changes. It's the exact same. That blowout risk is still there. Trade number 4 is a 7-tick loss at the long side. So again, I'm just getting blown out on this. This was a different idea. This was I tried to take this as a capitulation setup, and in all honesty, it would have worked if I was just a little bit more disciplined with my entry. So let's rewind here. Let's see where my entry was. Yeah, my entry was at 44.75. I literally bought the top of that move. Probably because of FOMO. I didn't want to miss the move. So let's screenshot this one. Just to show that this actually would have worked, and it was a decent idea. It's probably going to be a C setup, but it's at least decent. So so times 3 ATR times 3 ATR. So the theory here is that when price puts in 3 consecutive ATR candles, that it's going to be a capitulation in that we are going to reclaim all that, which we did. And we have precedence of that. So um, precedence. Times 3 ATR equals capitulation. However, it was just very poorly executed. My entry exit. And it was poorly executed because I was sized up too much, and I'm not thinking properly, and I'm not letting trades breathe like they should. I've also got FOMO because I know that there's a setup here, and the pain of missing it hurts more than the pain of taking a bad trade. But in the worst situations, you do both. You miss the trade and you take a loss on it, which is what happened here. Minus 7 ticks. Good setup. Executed poorly because of too much size. I think that's good enough. All right. Paste that little screenshot in there. This is going to be a yellow star because it was a good setup. It was just executed poorly. Maybe calm, discontent, and maybe patient. My clarity was pretty good here. I'm going to put clear. We were above VWAP, and above VWAP. Factors of support, we did have some small order blocks. Did we have any invalidation? No, I don't think we did. We had some reclaim favor. We had trend favor. And we definitely weren't trend against. We're kind of trend mid. This was an ATR candle fade. Can I put momentum on this? No, because we were below the 50 SMA. I'm going to put mean reversion since taking the bottom of this capitulation, we're hoping to revert back to the mean. I'm going to call this a C setup quality. My entry was late and my exit was early. Because if I had held it for just a couple more ticks, which on normal size I could have done, I could have held through that drawdown, the trade would have worked. I'm going to call this chasing and fear. This was a the setup itself is conservative. I just executed it poorly. So that's for the sake of the tags. Let's say it was a conservative scalp in a risk-off environment. I was slip against on the entry and yellow star. I also got the screenshot in there. Right, I think that works. Trade number 5. I start to at least attempt to turn things around. So this was a 7-tick profit to the short side. Let's watch it with narration. 5. Take it off of 44. A decent win, at least get something on the board. So I think this was a decent trade. It had good invalidation. ATR candle fade. Validation. We had range favor. We also had some big and small order blocks below us. And we had a support resistance area. That's good enough for me to call that multiple factors of support. My entry was good. My exit was good. This was a conservative scalp, risk off. Um, no mistakes that I can think of. Maybe against trend, because I do think I took that when we were above the VWAP +1. So I'll put the against trend tag on there. I do think, though, when I have multiple factors of support aligning, I can afford to fight the trend. But when I don't have any factors of support and I'm fighting the trend, that's a red star trade, absolutely. This was a mean reversion trade. And the setup quality is pretty decent. I'll call it a B setup. I like it. And when I took the short, we were above the moving average. I did have slip favor here. I was clear, maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. I'll call this a green star. Trade number 6 is a 1 tick profit to the long side. This is where things get tough because I don't have a clear bias in my trades like I have in prior sessions. My direction is very bidirectional. We got like short, long, 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 short, long, short, short, long, long, long. So it's just not as directional as I would like my trading to be, and that's a symptom of the type of day we're trading. And if the type of day is not aligning with my system, then I should not be trading, or at the very least, I should not be hitting the gas like I am on these trades. Let's watch the replay just to see what the setup was here. It was decent enough. You could almost call that momentum, but it's still just not great. I think I'll call it momentum just because we are putting in a bit of a trend since testing the lows, and it is possible to have a trend inside of a range. We can be trending from one side of the range to the other. So I'll call this ATR candle fade with momentum, but it's going to be like a C setup. I don't have a lot of factors of support on it. In fact, I'll call it a D. We were technically below the 50 SMA. I technically had slip favor on it. I did not have really any factors of support. I had small order blocks and trend favor. That's about it. Entry good, exit early. Could have gotten a little bit more out of this. I'm going to call this an aggressive scalp. So I am against my bias, technically. And while I do have trend favor, I am range against. So both can be true. You can be trading with the trend, but you could be trading against the range. And that's what I was doing here. I'm going to say my clarity was in between. Maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. This will be... I'll do this a yellow star. Because I can see why I took it, but I probably shouldn't have taken it. If anything, I would have preferred if all my short trades here were to the short side. So here we are making fresh lows on the day, and I am short, which is a good thing. Trade 7, 4 ticks profit short. Let's watch it. There's the fill, 40.5. And I'm going to take this off for a point because we're just kind of setting up a slip range here. And I don't want to hold it for much more than that. So good cut because I make the observation that we're in a slip range and we would have been in that slip range for a long time. So this was a decent trade. I am calm, but again, I'm going to say maybe content, maybe patient. My market read is clear on this one. We are below the VWAP -1. Factors of support, I definitely had trend favor. I had small order blocks in my favor. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it, unfortunately. Entry good, exit good. This was a conservative scalp, risk off. I am still technically against the range though. Trend favor, but range against. This was an ATR candle continuation. I'll call that momentum because we did hit the bottom of the Keltner channel. I'll call this a C setup below the moving average. Actually, no, we were technically above it when I took the trade. Slip favor. And this will be a green star because at least I'm conservative here. Trade number 8 is a 4-tick profit to the short side. Let's watch the replay. I'm going to try the short at 42.25. I'm going to risk 43.75. I do not want to see this move any higher. So again, I think I'm just being way too tight with my stops. While this was a winning trade, I am still way too tight on my stop. I think I also took this trade off too early for the point. Yeah, I took it off at 41.25, but I could have got the full target out of it, or at least closer. So this will be in exit early, entry good. We had trend favor here still, technically. We had reclaim favor below us. We had big order blocks, small order blocks. I'll call that multiple factors of support. This was a conservative scalp, risk off. ATR candle fade with, I'm honestly more tempted to call this a mean reversion, but because we are pretty far above, yeah, I'm going to have to call this mean reversion. And I'll call this a C setup. We are above the 50 moving average. Slip mid, I'll call it. Clear, maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. I will green star this one. Trade number 9 is a 2-tick loss to the long side. Retest, I'm going to long 48.25. So we do have momentum here. Pretty strong trend. But we just got so much reclaim below us. I think that's what went wrong here. It's taking a little longer than I would like. I took it off for a 2-tick loss because we're kind of rolling over back down to the downside, which usually means continuation. Yeah, and I think I was right about that cut. Yeah, I would have been holding this for a long time. It technically would have went to my target, but I would have been in it for like 5 minutes, and I just do not want to stay in a trade that long. So good cut. Exit good. I'll call it entry good. I'm gonna call this a breakout instead of momentum. So this was an ATR candle fade breakout. I'm gonna call it a C setup. It's not amazing by any means, especially with all the downside risk. We were actually below the 50 moving average when I took it. Slip none. I'm going to say there's not really any slip going on here. This was more of an aggressive scalp, which means I'm technically against my bias. I definitely have trend favor, and while in hindsight I was against the range, the point of taking this trade was that I thought we were going to break out, and the fact that we didn't isn't my fault. So that's just trading, that's how it goes. Sometimes it doesn't do what you expect it to do, and that's fine. And I think that's it. Yeah. Clarity, I want to say in between. Maybe calm, maybe content, maybe patient. Actually, I am calm in this one, so I'll change that to calm. And I think I'll green star it because I don't really see anything wrong with this trade. Yeah, I'll green star it. I think this was a good loss. Trade number 10 is an 8-tick loss to the long side. And this is where I start to falter. I think this is where fatigue is kicking in. I think this is where discontentment is kicking in. My first observation looking at this is that I'm chasing, and I'm actually going to put that tag on here, chasing, because this move is clearly over. I'm trying to trade the reclaim here. We put in huge, relatively huge reclaim to the downside on news. News came out that the UK is no longer sharing security intelligence with the United States, which caused a pretty big move down, about 5, maybe more, about an 8-point move to the downside. And we reclaimed it. And I actually had a really good trade idea from earlier. Let me see if I can actually find it, where I tried to get filled on this. But I was too slow because I did have the idea that I think we're going to reclaim. I can't find the exact moment. I think it was right there at 37s. I tried to get filled, but I didn't. And then the move went without me, and I was not content with that. I was not content with this move going without me, so I chased it. While it is technically a valid entry signal, we put in an ATR candle, and I'm long at the bottom of it. We're still in a downtrend, even though we have taken back that reclaim. And the up move that we just put in was almost 5 points wide. And if I'm trying to join an up move that's 5 points wide on a 3-tick pullback, that's just not a good enough pullback. I have to wait for a much more significant pullback to get long on a trend like that. So, calmness, I am not calm here. My heart rate is pretty elevated. I'm not content. And I'll put maybe patient because there is almost 10 minutes between this trade and my last one, but it's not great either because I jumped right into this trade. I'm confused. And I also think I'm fighting my system because I'm going long below the -1 VWAP. Slip against. This was technically an ATR candle continuation, but I can't tag momentum because we're in a downtrend. Maybe mean reversion. I'll put the tag on there just for the sake of gathering the data. The entry was well above the 50 moving average, though. I actually want to tag the bands on the moving average. Maybe I'll put that in there. Yeah, let me do that now before I forget. just because I do think it's valuable data for me to be tracking. And when I entered here, it was almost above the +1, so I'll tag it that way, just for the sake of it, just for the sake of data gathering. Factors of support. I did have some big and small order blocks above me. I did have reclaim above me, but that's about it. I can't really tag trend or range because we're range expanding. This was an aggressive scalp in a risk-off environment, which means I'm against my bias. I'm chasing. I'm also impulsive. This was a very impulsive trade to just jump right in at that point. This will be a red star. I have a sneaking suspicion that I should copy these tags to the next trade. Let's see. Trade number 11 is a 5-tick loss to the long side. I'm going to long 40.5. And it goes a point in my favor. Looks like we are taking back the ATR candle, which is basically my target. I think I definitely should have taken it off. It even gives me a second opportunity to take it off for the point, and I don't. Which means I am not content and I am not bankrolling. So let's paste our tags in here from the last one. There's the move. Were we below? Yes, technically we were below. This was an ATR candle fade. Mean reversion. And a bankroll fail. I technically had slip fever, but I'm still confused. I'm still not calm. I'm not content. And I'm not patient either because this is in very quick succession from the last trade. It's not a try two because it was technically a different setup. And I think that's it. My next trade up is 2 minutes later. Trade 12, last trade of the day. 7-tick loss to the long side, and this is where I call it. Bottom of it, 40.75 long. I will technically count this as a try two of my last idea. So yeah, this is a try two of the last idea. I'm going to paste my tags in. Up. I'm going to bid. Still not calm, still not content. And I am long below the bottom VWAP. So I am fighting my system. Fixated on an idea, try to. Red star. So yeah, that's my session. Pretty rough stuff there, especially at the end. I think taking those last 3 trades was purely a lack of contentment and revenge trading, and I should actually throw the revenge tag on these. At least the last 2. The last trade number 10, the 8-tick loss, was just a stupid mistake. But then trades 11 and 12, I'm trying to fix that stupid mistake. It puts me on tilt, which is what made it worse. So let's take a look at our stats, filter by rating. That's kind of where we're sitting there. And let's go into report card. So my single current long-term goal is to never attempt an idea more than twice. And I did that today. At no point did I ever trade the same idea more than twice. I did it twice, a couple times. I think I had two trades that were try two attempts. And I think they were both fail trades, which try to exists for a reason. It's for when you have a botched execution the first time and you have the opportunity to re-enter with a better average. But when you lose on both of those, when you try once and fail and then you try it again and fail, you're wrong. It's as simple as that. Even if you're not wrong and the idea goes on to work, there's no point in trying a third time because that's how you spiral. So while today was a very red day, and you might argue that I did spiral at the end, it was not caused by trading the same idea over and over again, which is a sign of improvement, in my opinion. So for that reason, because I did follow my rules and I followed my goal, I think today I would grade myself with maybe a B minus. Was nowhere near perfect. There were a lot of systematic rules that I broke, like going long below the -1 VWAP or shorting above the +1 VWAP. But for the most part, I stuck to my rules. Um, I want to start with things I need to improve on, and the biggest one is I need to lay off the gas when price action is too tight. And actually, I made a note of that in yesterday's review, November 10th, that when price action gets lethargic and grindy like that, I need to lay off the gas completely, sit on my hands and watch it. There's so much to be gained from sitting on your hands and watching price action instead of trading it. And today was a perfect example of that, where if I had just sat and watched that price action, I would have learned so much more and probably gained more appreciation for my system than I did by trying to trade it, because trying to trade it clearly, as we could see, did not work. Trying to trade that slow, grindy price action just resulted in further losses, unfortunately. So that would be number one of things I need to improve on is do not trade that slow, lethargic, grindy price action. You could make the argument that the entire session was like that. But I mean, if we look, there are brief moments where we did have good sustained trends. Um, there were a couple mean reversion opportunities which have a lower win rate, but at the trade off of more risk reward. But it's these slow, grindy areas that I need to avoid. Um, I do not want to be trading this kind of lethargic price action, you know. So it might be a good idea for me to go through a session like I currently am right now and just highlight areas that don't look good. I would make the argument that this entire area doesn't look good. And I would even extend that out to where we're currently trading. You know, it just, it's not a sustained trend. There's no good volume there. And we're just kind of bouncing around. And I think it's a good idea to not trade that stuff. So I want to try and make a point to do that in the future. The second thing that I need to improve on, and I discussed at the beginning, is don't size up under no circumstances, really. There might come a day where I need to size up, where my system is performing very well, and that in order to maintain long-term profitability, I need to size up. But I should do it slower. I sized up by 100% today. I went from 1 mini to 2 minis. I don't think there's any universe where that really makes sense. I think sizing up needs to happen slowly and gradually. Um, so point A is don't size up. I'm not ready. Stay with 1 mini indefinitely until I'm at least past this account. And two, or B, when I do decide finally to size up, to do it gradually. Do 12 micros, 14 micros, 16 micros, and slowly build up to that 2 mini area instead of just slamming 100% increase in size, because clearly it affected my psychology today, especially my contentment. I just was not content with my losses today, which I've been doing a really good job of recently in the last couple days, couple weeks. which is part of the reason why I'm giving myself a B minus, is because I do still think that I improved as a trader today, and I have been improving over the last few sessions. Um, Today was just unfortunately a lesson that I needed to learn, and the lesson was don't size up and don't force trades in bad areas. And those are really the two things that I need to improve on from today. I don't. There are other things that I did wrong today that I could improve on, like not fighting my system long above VWAP plus one, short but below VWAP minus one. But the two things I want to focus on most is over trading and grinding price action and sizing up prematurely. Those are my two things that I want to improve on. Things I did good. For the most part, I followed my system. Now, I did have, I think it was two trades where I fought my system and I paid for it. But for the most part, I stayed consistent with following my system. I didn't fight it too much. And even when I was having those psychology issues and those contentment issues with size and taking losses, I still was at least trying to focus on setup quality. I wasn't just spiraling down the hole of clawing back wins, clawing back losses like I have done in the past. I was still at least trying to focus on setup quality and to focus on the next trade instead of the next 5 trades and how do I make all of these losses back. I think one thing that I should have done differently is drop size, especially after those first couple losses. It should have been clear that, okay, I'm not going to make these losses back, but let's salvage the session and at least get some good reps in by dropping size and focusing on contentment and focusing on setup quality instead of being obsessed with P&L for the rest of the session like I clearly was. Easiest trade, I still do want to highlight the easiest opportunity of the session. I think it was my 7-tick profit, trade number 5. I don't think I had a single tick MAE. Yeah, it didn't go against me, a single tick. It just went immediately in my favor. 7-second hold time. Very good, clear mean reversion setup. I had range favor. Just it was a good setup. That's all I can really say. Focusing on setup quality was exactly what I did there. So I cannot complain about that trade. Very good trade. And I think that's it. In summary, today was anything but easy. It's very tough. And you can see here in the price action that today is just very grindy. You know, if we compress this or even look at a normal candlestick chart, you can see that price is just chopping around. Very little trend, very little volatility, and very few opportunities to trade. So on days like these, it's good patience practice to sit there and watch the slow grindy price action and learn what you can from it. But it is not good to trade and to press the gas and to, have 12 executions and fighting the trend and fighting your system. It's just not a good day to be that type of trader. So I am going to strive to not do that moving forward. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That about covers it, and I'll be back for the next one.